Okay, so let's get started. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today. As normal, this is a continuation of our series of ISBDC webinars designed around resiliency and recovery from COVID. Everybody has been affected in the last year. There's nobody that's gotten away unscathed. And so we have partnered with the ISBDC, and I am actually, my name is Jeff Zentz. I'm from a company called Generator. And we partnered with the ISBDC to help run this series of webinars to help offer some free training to small business owners to help them be resilient and recover from this challenging time. Today, we're really excited. We've got some exciting things going on. Later, we're going to have a bit of a roundtable discussion around some restaurant hospitality owners and how they've moved forward throughout COVID. But first, I'm really excited to introduce Lorraine Ball of Roundpeg to talk a little bit about digital fluency and how we kind of can move towards a digital world from an industry that's not typically in the digital realm as heavily. So Lorraine, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll make sure I man the chat, and any questions that come through, I'll pop in and we'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so today what we're going to do, because digital marketing is such a broad topic, I want to focus specifically on some tips and tricks for restaurants and give you some ideas on where to start if you're not really using social media, or how you get better. Just really quick about me. I'm a marketing strategist. I'm old school. I started my marketing career long before there were things like Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. And what I have learned is all of the same rules, all of the things that I did back as a traditional marketer still apply today as a digital marketer. All the rules about who your customer is and how you talk to them and how you treat them. The only thing that's changed are the tools. And so today we're going to talk about the tools. I started doing some research specifically for this presentation because we're really focused on the restaurant industry, and found that 67% of restaurants are using social media. I then went out and started looking at a lot of different restaurants and discovered that a lot of them are using it badly. And so what we really want to focus on is two things. How do you get better, and how do you manage the time? Because you got a business to run. The cool thing about social media is that if you use it well, you can build loyalty and use it to bring your customers back time and time again. And it's really a simple loyalty plan. On the front end, you want to attract the attention of people who don't know you. The middle is where you do what you do best, which is delight those customers with great quality and great service. And then you want to stay in touch. And the staying in touch is really your email program. And we'll talk later a little bit about why it's kind of this virtuous circle. Social media can grow awareness, deliver customer satisfaction, and drive actions. On the front end, you can use social media to get found, to really show off what you do best, and really entice people to come to your restaurant by seeing pictures of your food and pictures of people enjoying your food. In the middle, supporting the service that people get when they are in the restaurant, you can use digital marketing to answer questions, resolve issues, win trust. You can bridge that gap between what somebody sees on Facebook and how they actually get in touch with you. And you can use digital marketing to help people actually take the next step. Make a reservation, order online, share an experience, and most importantly, leave a review. When it comes to all sorts of businesses, reviews are important, but when it comes to restaurants, you will live and die by the things people say about you. And so your mission has to be to encourage as many people as possible to share reviews, to share them on Facebook, to share them on Google, to talk about you on Yelp and everywhere else. Now, we're going to assume that you're going to deliver great experiences, and so those reviews are going to be excellent, but you need those reviews. Which platforms? You do not need to be everywhere, and I think this is where people get exhausted, where social media begins to feel overwhelming, is because they feel as if they have to do everything. They have to do Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and Snapchat and. You don't. Give yourself permission to pick a few platforms, to get comfortable with scheduling a lot of your content up front, and it becomes manageable. Where do I think you need to be? I think you need to be, as a restaurant, on Facebook, Instagram, and Google My Business. And I typically tell people not to treat two platforms as if they were the same, but when it comes to restaurant marketing, it really can be. A lot of the content that you're sharing on one, you can share on the other, and Google My Business is its own animal. Why do you need both Facebook and Instagram? Because these are really both owned by the same company, but they are two different platforms reaching two very different consumer groups. Facebook is a great place to engage and drive action. Users tend to be 35% and older. There's a lot of affluent people who have money to come to your restaurant, and they are engaged. 73% of US Facebook users log in every single day. That's millions and millions and millions of eyeballs every single day. And 49% of people actually use Facebook to find restaurants. This audience is more receptive to advertising. And so if you have a special or a promotion, running ads on Facebook can be very effective. Conversely, Instagram is much better at building awareness. You're going to reach a younger audience, that 35 and under. And millennials and Gen Z are more likely to use Instagram to select restaurants. There was one data point that I saw that said something like 90% of millennials and Gen Z are 90% more likely to pay attention to restaurant reviews. There's that review word again, than boomers and Gen X. So if you're targeting that younger, hipper audience, you need to be on Instagram. It is the #1 social media app for engagement with restaurant brands. So if you're posting pictures of your food and posting pictures of people having a good time in your restaurant, you actually are more likely to get engagement organically on Instagram. The other thing that works really well on Instagram is you can use the story function to showcase some behind the scenes kind of things. Stories don't work as well on Facebook. They really do live better in the Instagram environment. Now, you actually can post to both platforms at the same time. The trick is to connect to your Instagram and Facebook pages and then start on Instagram. Paste it on Instagram and share to Facebook. But all of those hashtags that work really well on Instagram, don't put them in the initial post. Let it go to Facebook and then go back and comment on what you just posted and paste your hashtags there. It will allow you to connect to other people on Instagram, and it won't clutter up what you're trying to share on Facebook. So what do you share? How do you share? How do you think about this? Well, this is one of my favorite formulas. 50% needs to just be engagement focused, just fun, beautiful pictures of food. 30% informational, maybe a little bit more how you do things, some of the behind the scenes stuff, and 20% We're running a special this week for Father's Day, bring dad in. But if you spend too much time here and not enough time here, you're going to turn people off. You have to earn the right to advertise to me. And you earn the right by sharing fun and interesting things. And then I'm more likely to hop over and actually take you up on an offer for a special. One of the things that you can do is kind of create a little worksheet like this, where you sort of remind yourself what you're trying to do, and then have some standard types of content that you share. For example, you could do every week on Mondays, meet the staff. Every week on Wednesdays, have the chef pick one food item and make it the chef special. As a restaurant, you're an active part of a local community, and so maybe have a featured charity that you connect with once a month, or cross promote with the theater across the street, and have local kind of what we're doing, what's happening this week in Indianapolis, what's happening this week in South Bend. Maybe have one day or every 2 weeks, a contest or a poll. Ask people to share their photos. Always, always, always ask for reviews. But don't get up in the morning and go, oh my God, I have to post something on social media today. If you're doing that, you're going to wear yourself out. Sit down once a month, make a list of what you think would be cool. Start collecting those photos, and you can even schedule those in advance. Simple post tips. It's all about the pictures. And the good news is that you're in an industry that photographs well. Pictures of your food, pictures of your building, pictures of your people, pictures, pictures, pictures. Tell people about featured dishes. Let people get to know their servers. I'm going to show you a photo later. The one that I thought is just charming was, the original owner. He'd retired from the business, but customers still love him. Bring him back. Show your chefs in action. Connect with local news and events, contests, and if somebody says something nice, share it. Again, at the end of the day, it is about the food. And I would recommend that you get a professional photographer to take some glamour photos. And don't use them all at once, but take those glamour photos, and then you can use them as you need them, mixing them in with the more authentic in the moment. The other thing is that if you have a good camera, there are some wonderful apps, even on your iPhone, that can help you do a better job of food photography. Couple of quick tricks. Number one, it's about lighting. Make sure that the food is front and center and it's lit well. Don't get in too close. Pull back a little bit so that you have a little bit of context. But you want those food photos to make people feel hungry. And tell me what I'm eating. Yukon Gold puree, fennel, Brussels sprouts, and pork belly. Okay, that either is going to appeal to me or it isn't. But if it does, I'm like, I'm there. I want to try that. It is about your people. At holidays, year round, you can have staged photos, or this particular photo, I actually remember taking it. I told the guy behind the counter I just wanted a photograph of him, and he pointed up at the menu, and it was fun, and it was just natural and authentic, and people loved it. I found this one online and I thought it was charming. Giuseppe loved Chianti port wine and Sambuca after every meal. In honor of what would have been his 100th birthday, we're offering $3 Sambuca all week. He's long gone, but people remembered him. And this post totally pulled people in. The number of comments and likes and interactions was huge. And it was because it was very personal. You had a nice mix of the food and the person. It's about your customers. We live in an age with what they call fear of missing out. And so when I see pictures of people having a good time, eating something that looks delicious, celebrating, I want to be a part of that celebration as well. There are two ways to get photographs of your customers. The first is you take them periodically, hop into the restaurant and ask people if you can take them, or encourage people to take their own photos and tag you. Create incentives in your restaurant that encourage people to do that. Why? If you share the photo here, everybody who follows you is going to see this. But if Patty shares the photo and she takes the picture and shares it on her page, excuse me, now everybody who knows her knows that there was a good time at Taylor's. Maybe we should go. The other thing is, when you do take pictures of your customers, invite them to tag themselves. Again, social media is social, and it is a way to connect your restaurant to your customers and to their friends and family. Take people behind the scenes. This was a video. I did not embed the video, but basically they showed you how they took this giant fish and turned it into sushi. And it was awesome, and it was interesting, and it was probably more than I needed to know about sushi, but it was fun, and it was a neat way to take people inside. Even a short video of just cookies coming out of the oven and somebody smelling them, or someone taking a first bite, is a great way to make your content more engaging. This restaurant is known for their drinks. And so showing the bartender at work creating a drink does several things. It reinforces that what these guys are known for is their spectacular drinks and their talented bartenders. Add a little humor. I loved this one. Today's forecast calls for a light dusting of Parmesan and garlic. This particular restaurant uses the same photos over and over and over again, but what they do is there's always a little different take, a little quip or quote or funny question. And this is where those great images that you have taken can be awesome as you reuse them in different ways. This one is also kind of, this was fun. This was from Ruth's Cafe here in Indy. Breakfast date. And I loved the little coffee mug with the picture of the dog. Do you still need a date spot for Valentine's Day? What a clever way to get people thinking about your restaurant. I don't know how many people will actually go to breakfast on Valentine's Day, but now I'm intrigued, and they've kind of broken through the clutter, and I'm going to keep them in mind. Contests and polls. And again, this is that wing place. I think they do a great job. They ask people to pick their favorite. And so they created just a little graphic with 3 pictures, and there was some text on top of this. It was too long to show everything, but basically, which is your favorite? Ask people, we're thinking about adding this or this to our menu. Which would you prefer? This was really for a bean company, but a restaurant could use it as well. We do a poll every year, and it's chili, beans or no beans, chili, beef or no beef. And you get people who are absolutely passionate about their chili. So if you find a food that, people have some definite opinions on, go ahead and stir the pot and ask them to talk about it. You'd be amazed at the comments that you get. You can also do contests where you have a photograph of a dish that maybe you haven't named yet. Some restaurants have very clever names for their dishes. You know, it's the Paul's Reuben or the Mary's cheesecake or the To Die For chocolate pie, or, you know, something a little bit fun and clever. If that's kind of your style, why not run a contest and ask your community to name your next creation and give the winner a dinner that features them eating that creation? That becomes the gift that keeps on giving. People will interact with you and engage with you. They'll talk to you. And then the winner who comes in and gets that particular food is more likely to then take photographs, share them on social media, and continue that cycle. 85% of restaurant goers report that they would post about a positive restaurant experience. 85% say they'll do it. So how many are doing it? Only the ones you ask. On Facebook, you can request reviews. This is part of your Facebook page. Go ahead and send this link to every customer. Have a QR code in your restaurant that people can scan and do it right from the table. Don't wait. The sooner you ask for the review, the easier you make it, the more likely is the chance you will actually get that review. And now I want to switch gears. Facebook is social media. It is about engaging and interacting. Google My Business is not. Google My Business is a search engine tool masquerading as a little bit of a social platform. But this is where people go when they don't know something, when they want to know something. So you need to have a Google My Business page, and you have to have a good Google My Business page. You need to go where your customers are, because 75% of consumers use their phone to get real-time location-based information. What do I mean by real-time location-based information? I mean, it's 11 o'clock and I hop on my app and go, pizza restaurant near me. Real-time location-based. 70% of people who run a local search on their phone are likely to take action within an hour. So if I do a search for a pizza restaurant near me, and your restaurant pops up and it looks good, there's a good chance I'm going to be there. And companies with robust profiles are 38% more likely to have people actually come and visit them. So it's not just enough to be there. You got to be there in full. You've got to get on the map. So when I type Italian restaurant near me, you come up. Now, one of the things that I noticed, and I've seen this a lot, is very often the chains, Fazoli, Olive Garden, dominate up here. But you can break through the clutter if you've got good information. This third one down, Puccini's, they are a local family-owned company. And so you need to make sure that your profile is good so that when Google is trying to figure out who to put on the map, they pick up you. And this is a new screen grab. I just did this search yesterday. That's how new this screen grab is. With the latest update of my iPhone, when I do voice search, the list comes up. It looks a little different, but when I read in the fine print, it's being powered by Google Map. So even though it is being presented differently, it is being powered by the map. Now, let's look for a moment at what you see. Mostly text and one photo. If your photo doesn't look good in this initial scan, you're reducing the chances that someone will actually click on your restaurant to learn more. And so on Google My Business, establishing your profile, getting a lot of photos is important. You start by claiming and completing the listing, and you have an opportunity to pick your cover photo. You want to make sure that it is something that looks good and looks interesting, even when it's very small. And so whether you choose to do a picture of your building or food, I typically like food better than the building, but the building is fine. You want to make sure that it's very well lit, that it's light and bright, because when pictures get small, they get muddy and they get really hard to distinguish. The next thing is you want to make sure that you fill out as much information. You want to go through your Google My Business profile and fill out as much of the information as you possibly can. Why? Google loves words. And so the more information, the more words you give Google, the easier it is for Google to classify and identify you. And if they understand who you are and what you do, you're more likely to show up in search. You have a limited number of words that you can use all of them. I think it's 300 characters for your restaurant description. Right now, they have a health and safety section. You can link to your menu, or you can actually have your menu on your Google My Business page. Either way, you want that menu to be interactive. You want people to be able to call you. You want them to know how to make a reservation. If you take reservations, that needs to be right up front. And this call to click button is incredibly powerful. And one of the things I really like about my Google My Business is my ability to track. I can see how many calls did I get? How many people clicked on it? How many people just saw my page? And you begin to see how much value this gets. And you want to add your menu. And this is really important. I have seen a lot of restaurants that either just list the food or just kind of the titles. The more information you share, the more I know about your restaurant, the more likely I am to come. I've seen some restaurants do this where when I click on the menu, I just get the menu highlights. I just get a few items. These pictures are great and I love them. But if I want to see the whole menu, if I want to see what your pricing is to decide whether or not I want to come, to me, this is a little frustrating. I prefer, and I would do both. I would make sure that you've got some great photos of your individual products. Always, always, always make sure that that reserve a table link goes somewhere. Google My Business is free advertising, and you have an opportunity to tell your story and then literally place 2 ads side by side in your Google My Business listing. You'll notice Joe only has 1. I must have looked at 20 different restaurants yesterday, and not a single one of the restaurants I looked at had 2 listings. You see, Google typically expires your content after a week. So if you haven't shared a new post in the last few days, you end up with this blank spot. So if you want to take full advantage of this free advertising, you should be updating your Google My Business page twice a week. What does a Google My Business post look like? It should have a beautiful picture. You can have a little bit of text across it and some information. You always want to, it should always have a photo. Why? Because most of the information on Google is all text. If you have a great photo, then you're going to stand out. You want to use keywords in the description. By that, I mean, if people are searching for an Italian restaurant, you want to make sure that every single post includes Italian restaurants, sandwich shop, best bakery in Indianapolis, whatever it is, you want those keywords in your description, and you want to have a CTA button with the link. This particular post didn't have one. It should. You have the ability, learn more. Every time you post something on Google My Business, you want to link to your website. You always want to link to your website, because what Google My Business does is it connects the community or the Google search environment to your website. The stronger you make that connection, the more authority your website will have. And then when I'm searching for Italian restaurants near me, not only will you be listed on the map, but then your restaurant will show up below the map. And again, I want you posting twice a week. The cool thing with Google My Business is that the user interface is really easy. You can open up the window and you can do a special offer. We're running a special this week. If you click here, the questions change a little bit. What's new? Just a general product update. Are you hosting an event? Do you have a product? Photo, if it's an event, photo, title, date. If it's just a what's new photo, maybe link to something on your website. And here, add a button. It's optional. It's not optional. Every post should have a button. Now, you can use a lot of the same information that you're creating for Facebook on Google My Business. The difference, this should be for a restaurant, mostly your promotional information. A few glamour shots of your food, yes, but if you have a weekly special, put it on Google My Business. If you have a chef feature, put it on Google My Business. This is a place that you don't have to be clever and entertaining. People are not coming to Google to be entertained or clever. They're coming to Google for information. So you can get down to business much more so. So if you create a blog post every day for Facebook and Instagram, pick the 2 posts that are more business oriented. And here's the trick that makes Google My Business different from Facebook or Instagram. If you reshare content on Facebook and Instagram, it becomes really obvious unless you wait several months to do so. But on Google My Business, because Google hides your old content, you actually can reshare things. So if you dive into your analytics and you notice that you have a post that is doing well or did well, reshare it. If you have a picture that grabbed people's attention, maybe change the caption and reshare it. You do not need to be reinventing the wheel. Because again, with Facebook and Instagram, you're building a community. You're trying to get people to know and love you. And, think about if you would, every time you got together with friends, you told the same 3 stories. There would be a point at which your friends would tell you to just shut up. So you've always got to have something a little new and a little fresh for Facebook. But Google is not like going to a room full of friends. It really is an ad, and you can run the same ads over and over. Google is a place where you can meet people you don't know. This is a screen grab from Google Analytics, not the Google Analytics, the Google My Business Analytics. And what you see is, how did people find you? Direct. About half of the people for this restaurant knew the restaurant by name. They actually typed in, I don't know, Morton's restaurant, whatever it was. But the other half are discovery. And this is a fairly typical pattern for a restaurant. It is a healthy pattern for a restaurant. These people were just looking for Italian restaurant near me, steak place near me, and this restaurant showed up. These are people who don't know you or weren't thinking about you in that moment, and you had an opportunity to get to know them. And let's come back to reviews for just a minute. We talked about reviews in Facebook. In Google My Business, there is a really nice request a review feature. You get a hyperlink. 88% of consumers trust online reviews as much as they do personal recommendations. They will take the word of a complete stranger over even their mother. So you need reviews. The cool thing and the thing I really like about Google My Business is you actually can respond right from the GMB app. So you can be there right on your phone, checking your reviews and simply responding in real time. And I want to switch gears for a minute because I've talked a lot about digital marketing and, helping people find you and helping people get to know you. But the truth is that on social media and on Google, you are competing with all sorts of other things for attention. And so your end game needs to be to create a viable email list, people who are happy to hear from you. It is a way to stay connected to people who love you. It is a way to reward your most loyal customers, and it is a way to stay top of mind. And it does not have to be overwhelming. Your email newsletter can be as simple as this: a beautiful picture, today's special, and a way to get a coupon. It can be a weekly reminder or a monthly. It may feel like a weekly reminder is a lot, but I will tell you, we started doing an email newsletter for a restaurant back in 2000. It was probably 12 years ago. So, 2008, 2009, and it's a weekly newsletter. And to this day, they still send out the newsletter. They have high open rates. Sure, people unsubscribe after a while, but they get engagement. What do they send? They may send the weekly specials. They may send a photograph of a new employee and encourage people to come in and say hello. They may send a coupon. They have a birthday club and they send a birthday greeting once a year with a special offer and invite them to come in. The trick is to be consistent, to always be growing your list, to be okay that less is more. You do not need to write your life history. And again, you can sit down. You do not need to wake up this morning and go, oh my God, I have to send out a newsletter. Trying to maintain that kind of schedule will kill you. Carve out a few hours once a month. Brainstorm all your social media, get all your photos together, and then work on your 2 newsletters, get them set up, scheduled, and get on with your day. Hop into social media to comment, engage, or interact. But the heavy lifting is pre-scheduled. It's done ahead of time. Some of the common questions that we get asked, and I'm going to throw these out there, and then I really want to open it up for questions. I have to hop off at 11, but we're going to have plenty of time if you have questions. Which social media platforms? Facebook and Instagram are for engagement and brand building, and Google My Business is for SEO, search, and reviews. Facebook and Instagram at least 3 times a week. I would love to see you do it every day, but that can be a little overwhelming. You want to think about when people are on their phone and they're considering thinking about food. Posts at 9 a.m. between noon and 1 and 8 p.m. do really well. Interestingly, newsletters, we found that if the newsletter was delivered about 11 o'clock in the morning, it bumped their lunch rush. Google My Business is 2 times a week, and you should schedule at least 2 weeks at a time. There are tools like Buffer, Hootsuite, and Publer that allow you to upload a spreadsheet that has your comment, your link to wherever you want to link, your photo. Just get it all done, and then you can set it and forget it. The other advantage to using a tool like Buffer, Hootsuite, Publer, Social Mentions, any of those tools, is you'll get a little bit of analytics. You can hop in and see which content really did well. There is a free version of Publer. Buffer and Hootsuite have a fee. The upgraded version of Publer, there is a fee. But I would, get your feet wet, try one of the free trials, see how you like it. Learning it may take a little bit, but once you're up and running, it's really easy to manage your social. I like, if you can manage it, a weekly special for your newsletter with featured food items or featured employees. So what's next? I want to encourage you to check out the Digital Toolbox, digitaltoolbox.club. There are a lot of other webinars like this. There are both free and paid programs. One of the ones you definitely want to check out is probably our deep dive on the how-tos of Google My Business. I have a special offer today only. You can save 30% on your membership if you use the code MAYSPECIAL. And now I really want to open it up to questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we are. Grant, did we have any questions? Do you have questions? What do you think?
Lorraine, we don't have any in the chat, but I have one for you. So
Okay.
one of the things that I've seen in the past, not with restaurant owners directly, but the Google My Business reviews system is incredibly powerful. You mentioned that. But it can also be incredibly powerful if you get not a positive review. Can you talk through like your best practices for, let's say somebody doesn't have a great experience with your restaurant? How do you coach somebody to go about kind of rectifying and making sure that that review doesn't haunt your business for the next year?
Okay, so several things. First off, I want you to think about a negative review as an opportunity. Because here's the thing, no one expects you to be perfect. If I go to a facility and all they have are positive reviews, I kind of wonder if they're legit, okay? Because I know that everybody has a bad day. So what I do and what most people will do is they'll look at the negative reviews, and what they want to see is, okay, when they screw up, what do they do? How do they treat the person? Because, okay, number one, oh, look, there's one bad review and 50 good ones. Okay, so the odds that I'm going to have a bad experience are pretty small. But if I do have a bad experience, they're going to take care of me. So if you keep that in mind, I would always start with, I would never, first off, you don't want to completely resolve the problem on social media. You always want to kind of treat it like somebody has walked into your building and they're angry. You're not going to discuss it in the hallway in front of other customers. You're going to invite that person into your office. And so I would always lead with, I'm sorry that we did not meet your expectations. Not, I'm sorry that we screwed up, because maybe you didn't screw up. I've seen reviews on restaurants where someone was like, well, they make chili with beans and I don't like beans. Okay, It's not that my chili is bad. It wasn't. So a negative review is not always you screwed up, but it may be, so I'm sorry we didn't meet your expectations. Here's how we can have a conversation. What can we do to help? And then take that conversation out of the public view. And then when you have resolved the issue, if you resolve it, invite that person to go back and update. At that point, hey, thanks for taking the time to talk with me. I hope that our coupon for X, Y, or Z resolves the problem. Accept the fact that there are trolls. There are people who they have an axe to grind no matter what. You're never going to make them happy. The next strategy, acknowledge, I'm sorry, we meet your expectation, but then bury them. And bury them in a sea of positive reviews. Everybody has, you've got your regulars. You have your friends and your family who love you. Reach out and say, look, I got a troll. I got somebody who is just really not happy. Can you help me out? Here's the link. Will you share some love?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, on that note, and this is probably a balancing act, but do you recommend enticing folks with specials or things like that to get them? Or do you feel like that's kind of a slippery slope? How do you view that?
You got to be careful, because if you make the incentive too rich and you get too many at once, Google won't publish all of them. They know you're gaming the system. So selectively, share some love and desserts on us, so they can do it right in the restaurant. That way you're not going to get 100 at any given time. But and that's something that you can do selectively, kind of thing. I don't do it all the time, but a lot of times people will just talk about you and share. Remember, 80% say they will do it. You just got to ask them. I think that's the thing. On your bill, put the QR code, have it print out on your receipt, or have a card that when you present the check, have a card right there that says, scan this and leave us a review. You don't even need a QR reader anymore. Everybody's phone will just activate the QR code. And maybe have two, Facebook and Google My Business, because you cannot leave a GMB review if you don't have a Google Gmail address.
Got it. And I think this is the last question. I don't think we've had any others come through the chat. So you've obviously outlined three really simple ways to kind of do this. What kind of do you feel like this is kind of the lowest hanging fruit for a restaurant as far as just getting out there and really making this happen? Is that your kind of takeaway point?
Yeah, these are the ones I picked because I think these are the ones that are easy. They're easy to automate. You can supplement with a little bit of real live in-person kind of thing. If you like Twitter is all day, every day. 25% of the conversations on Twitter are about food and restaurants. Now, that is hard to believe given how much politics is always in my news feed. But there is actually a lot of good, and I've seen some restaurants that are just amazing on Twitter, but that's an all day, every day kind of thing. And if you're not ready for that, and I don't think you ever have to be, I think Facebook and Instagram, Google My Business give you a great way to start.
That's perfect. Lorraine, I think we're going to let you off the hot seat and head to your next meeting. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate this. Anybody that's either watching this after the fact or feel free to reach out to me directly. And if you want to get in contact with Lorraine, I'm sure she will be happy to have that connection made. And again, if you're on this today live, remember that I think it was May 30 was the
May special.
Yes.
May special for 30% off memberships in the digital toolbox.
Yep. So make sure we take advantage of that too.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Lorraine. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Attendees, hang tight. So we're going to take a quick break. We've got about 8. We want to get started back up at 11 o'clock, right on the money, with our restaurant roundtable. So if you guys will hang tight, feel free to refresh your coffee, take a little bit of a second away from the computer, and we will be back here in 8 minutes for the restaurant roundtable. All right. So let's, it's 11 o'clock. Let's get back to it. Again, thanks everybody for being here. Lorraine's presentation earlier on kind of headed toward those 3 digital marketing sides for a restaurant was super impactful. And so now we're going to continue that conversation toward a little bit more of the practical in terms of a roundtable. And so I'm really fortunate to have Adam from Cardinal Spirits and Curtis from Switchyard Brewing Company here to be part of this panel today. And I'm just getting to pepper them with questions and let them tell us a little bit about their experience through COVID and also the direction that we're headed as a whole going forward. So first, before I even get into anything, I'd like to make sure that all the attendees know, feel free to use the chat function. I'll be monitoring that. So this is not just for me to ask questions. This is for you all to ask questions. So please feel free to use that chat function if you have any questions or anything that we can follow on with, and we'll get into it there. So first, one of the two of you, I'll let you kind of flip a coin if you want, but I'd love it if you give us a little bit of background on not only you, but your business as a whole to get us kind of level set from the beginning.
After you, good sir.
I was going to say after you, Curtis. Okay. I'm Adam Quirk. I'm the co-founder of Cardinal Spirits. We're a distillery and manufacturer in Bloomington, Indiana. We also have a tasting room and restaurant attached to our distillery, which is why I think I'm here today. Yeah, my background is in digital media actually, and then, I got into distilling about, gosh, I guess it was about 10 years ago. Cardinal opened we distilled our first batch in December of 2014. And we've been producing and selling spirits all around the country ever since. In Bloomington, we have the what we call the Beeline tasting room, Cardinal Spirits Distillery. It's at 922 South Morton Street. We have a nice patio, which we're getting ready to reopen, which I'm sure we'll get into soon. And yeah, you could find our stuff all over the state and 12, 13 other states in the country.
That's awesome. Curtis.
Yeah, so while Adam was distilling his first batch in December of 2014, we were filing for trademark applications for Switchyard Brewing Company in my garage in December of 2014. Myself and my co-founder, business partner, Jeff Hall, we both worked as paramedics here in Bloomington. And on our nights off work, we would brew in the garage and just kind of fell in love with the craft and wanted to bring something new that could bring positive change to the Bloomington community. And so after several years of kind of digging our heels into this ground and never kind of giving up, perseverance against all odds, we got the brewery open on Memorial Day 3 years ago. And it's just been a wild ride since. We originally started with just a tasting room attached to the production brewery in our 8,800 square foot facility in downtown Bloomington. And then because of COVID, we ventured into the restaurant world and opened a Switchyard Pizza Kitchen about 6 months ago. So it was due to COVID that we kind of pivoted and put in a restaurant, which seemed kind of counterintuitive at the time. People thought we were nuts, and here we are. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Curtis, let's continue down that path for a second. And I'll let you lead us on this one. So can you tell us a little bit of like what life was like before COVID, kind of to set that stage? Like what did business look like? What things were you doing as far as the business goes? And you might even incorporate a little bit of that decision to pivot in there.
Yeah. We were, we're kind of rolling into our second year, and tasting room sales were up. We were we were not really even considering packaging. We were just really enjoying being a kind of 16 beers on tap, constantly rotating, a place where you could bring your dog and hang out. You could bring your kids, just kind of like this brewery concept that we don't really see a whole lot in Indiana. Just, tasting room only, basically, or tap room only concept, which coincidentally enough, according to the Brewers Association, 78% of their members fall into that category where you are a tap room only. You don't do a whole lot of distribution. You don't have significant food service on site. And that's 78% of breweries in the United States. Come to find out, that was also, 78% of the breweries in the United States. That's also the most dangerous concept to be in as it relates to a global pandemic, because you rely 98% of your sales are on site. You rely on that customer to come in to not only buy your products, but also, engage with your staff and, do what we do best and provide great hospitality. So, we had 2 block parties for our community that previous year in 2019. Things were smooth sailing. We had no real intention of packaging, no real intention of continuing any significant food service. We were loving, my daughter comes into the tap room all the time. She was 2 at the time. She loves playing with the dogs inside, and that's what we would do. So things were smooth sailing and growing until, the brakes got hit. Someone pulled the e-brake, and it was March 22nd, when the governor announced the stay-at-home order. And I will never forget sitting at the bar and looking up at the TVs and just saying, well, what do we do now? And it was within a matter of hours that we started, basically, as my wife puts it, my brain immediately started going back into entrepreneurship mode, where I was just basically trying to recreate a new business, because the business that we had been doing for so long, came to a halt. So we had to reinvent ourselves. We had to pivot. My daughter, we joke with my daughter, like, she will walk around and once in a while, she'll be playing with her Shopkins or her toys, and you'll hear her just randomly be like, pivot the business. And, because she's selling brownies or something to her little Shopkins people, but then she has to pivot the business and now she's selling cookies. I don't know. But that was our trip getting into it.
That's awesome. Adam, from your perspective, what was life like kind of before COVID for you guys?
Yeah, we had, our business is kind of threefold. So we have, I just consider it straight manufacturing. We actually make, we produce spirits, we just ferment, distill, bottle, craft spirits, and sell that under the Cardinal Spirits brand. And that's what we, like I was saying earlier, distribute to a number of states and all over Indiana. The other part of our business that most people don't know about is we have, we call it Cardinal Co-Packing. So we do contract bottling for larger brands, larger companies who maybe they have a brand that does 1 million cases, but they have another smaller brand that does 50,000 cases a year or something, and their larger co-packer doesn't want to mess with it. Or maybe it's, the label has to be applied by hand and a little ribbon tied around the bottle, right? So we do all that stuff for bigger companies. And then we also work with startup distilleries and startup spirit brands, including, some restaurateurs. We actually helped develop the St. Elmo's bourbon with them. And we're working with some other restaurant groups now. So that's kind of the second part of our business. And then the third part is our sort of customer-facing retail business in Bloomington, there on the Beeline. That part of our business has been, I would say, fairly consistent for the past number of years. May go up or down a little bit, depending on, I guess, a number of things every year, but not a tremendous amount of growth. I think we had maybe not maxed out, but we were comfortable with the amount of business we were doing through the tasting room. And, you know, it's obviously great for people come and experience our products directly. We can do tours, all the fun stuff that Curtis was mentioning, you know, the hospitality part of running a beverage manufacturing company is a lot of fun. So, you know, for us, in March, it was yeah, I guess it was like it was spring break, I think, because I know Jeff, my partner, and his wife were out of town. So Erica Sagone is my business partner, Jeff's wife. She handles all of our marketing and communications. Jeff is more of the you know, management operations partner, and I'm more, I would say, strategic and like growth projects. And Jeff was out of town in Florida with Erica when all this started happening. You know, we had a couple phone calls, and I was like, I don't know, guys. I think you need to come back home because like this is it's getting nuts over here. So you know, they got on a flight, came back home. Meanwhile, you know, the one thing that we changed quite a bit was I noticed that the hand sanitizer was out on every shelf in Bloomington, right? CVS, Kroger, checked a bunch of different places, couldn't find any. And I knew what hand sanitizer was. It was alcohol plus some, you know, hand softening stuff, glycerin. So looked up a recipe, found out actually there was another distillery already doing hand sanitizer in Portland or Seattle, and quickly made up a batch of hand sanitizer and put it in just a water dispenser out on the table in the tasting room, you know, and let people come in and fill up their bottles. And then, yeah, I mean, pretty quickly after that, that became a well-known thing around town. We had customers coming in who had never heard of Cardinal Spirits before, but knew we had hand sanitizer. And then it escalated quickly, as they say. So we got, you know, phone calls from hospital groups, sheriff's departments, fire departments all over the state asking for hand sanitizer. So, I mean, I went from making 5-gallon batches in the back with a spoon to mixing up, you know, full-size totes, so 270-gallon batches within the first few days. And then I think like within 2 weeks, we had to lease a 6,800-gallon mixing tank to keep up with the demand, and then eventually got 2 10,000-gallon mixing tanks. And you know, over the course of the next few months, pivoted almost all operations to hand sanitizer. I mean, spirit production all but stopped for like 6 to 8 weeks. The tasting room, you know, we closed down to the public, but we kept doing carry out, and moved a lot of our front of house staff into production, which, you know, helped, I think, for a number of reasons. We didn't have to hire a bunch of people to make sanitizer because we already had some people on staff who were willing to make that switch. So yeah, I mean, that was the, you know, first few months of it, and then, you know, we can talk about everything else.
Yeah, I mean, but incredible. I love how both of you guys kind of spearheaded quick pivots in the midst of like unsurety. Like, can you, Adam, kind of continuing down that thread, can you talk us through kind of like you get kind of in this position where like it's pivot or nothing, like you just have to do it. Like how did you guys kind of work through that? Like, was it just an instantaneous, like, hey, we see an opportunity, we're going to head this direction? Or like what things did you plan through? What things did you not plan through that you should have? Like, what learnings came kind of from that pivot?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, in early days, there wasn't much planning. It was sort of, here's today. We kind of know what's going to happen today. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. And that was true for, you know, both sort of finance and running a business, plus just like supply chain was completely disjointed and all over the place. We couldn't find most of the stuff we normally can easily get within a few days from our vendors. Took was taking weeks. So, and some people were just saying, no, we can't, we don't have anything. So, yeah, I mean, that was, thinking back now, it's now that we're far away from it, it doesn't seem as crazy, but at the time you just had no idea what was going to happen. Much, not next week. It was really, you could maybe plan a day or two ahead. So that was nuts. And yeah, I mean, lessons learned, I guess. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think we could have done better is when we stopped spirit production for hand sanitizer. A lot of our clients, we have bottling schedule that usually goes out 8-12 weeks. We had clients on the schedule. They were like, hey, are we still going to be able to get our products? We're like, actually probably not. We're going to have to push back because we're supplying, hospital groups and all these places with hand sanitizer. What we know now is that this virus actually doesn't really live on surfaces. It's almost all aerosol. We had no idea then at the time. Everyone was, my hands were crispy with, dry skin. And so I don't know, I guess, in retrospect, it does seem like we probably jumped a little too far into the hand sanitizer thing, but we just had no idea. So I think it was worth doing.
That's great. Curtis, so bringing in like not only pivoting, but like brand new pizza side of the business, like how does that thought process go through? Had you previously kind of thought about those ideas of maybe adding that food piece, or was it legitimately just necessity because the tap room is not able to run like it normally would?
Yeah, I mean, and Adam, you guys did exactly what the community needed for you guys at the time at Cardinal. I mean, mad props to you guys for making that huge pivot. And not only, did you supply, like you said, hospital groups and a lot of first responders, but with that comes just really good grace PR that you can't buy. Like that's marketing you cannot buy from any source. And that's just doing the right thing, right? Like hindsight's always 2020. Because my team was just talking about that same thing. I mean, I was talking about our kind of exit from, limited operations for the last 16 months with my team this week, actually. We were just talking about, there were just so many unknowns at the very beginning. I mean, we were wearing, we were going through nitrile gloves and, bulking up on nitrile gloves, and then, reserving nitrile for healthcare providers, and then buying the hybrid gloves, and we were filling growlers with hybrid, with hybrid gloves. And I was trying to basically teach our staff from my experience in my adult career working in emergency services, trying to teach them like, hey, you have to, if you're going to do the glove thing, you got to change them out every single time, because you don't realize how often you're just leaving the gloves on. And that's just the same as not washing your hands. We were using gloves to fill growlers, and we still have, I call them COVID battle scars, like on our restroom stall walls where we're sanitizing it every 30 minutes, no food, we toyed with the idea of food several times. We thought about it. We're like, should we not? We always relied on food trucks. We had some great food truck partnerships. And those, I made some lifelong friends because of that. But, what kept on pulling us back was kind of the company's guiding principles. And like, all right, any big decision, we look back at the guiding principles and we say, does this fall in line with what we intended in the beginning? For food, we always kept on coming back to no, we really enjoy having dogs in the tap room. We don't want to get rid of that. We want to be something different in Bloomington. And it just, the pandemic really caused us to pull the trigger on the food. I mean, because, and it was crazy because, I mean, we were conserving cash flow as much as possible. I mean, first thing I did was call Comcast. I knocked off all of our TVs because we only needed one TV. where we could just get the news every day, as we're sitting there, because we were working 9 a to 10 p every day, 7 days a week. We put our internet speeds down to like the bare minimum to run Zoom calls. We never turned on the heat. This is early March in Indiana. We kept the heaters off. Staff would be like, it's kind of cold in here. And I'll be like, yeah, well, we should probably put on some more jackets, like the old, but we tried to conserve as much cash as possible. So then when, we brought up this idea of opening a kitchen and investing a lot of money and purchasing restaurant equipment and things like that, it was kind of, people thought we were nuts. They were like, oh, you're going to spend $50,000 on rent on putting in a kitchen when we really should be saving, cash right now. But I knew that just cash flow was going to continue to go down, because if the only product we had to sell was beer, and not even packaged beer at that, we're talking draft, growlers, crowlers, there just would, that would not have been sustainable for this long of a period. We launched a new brand, Switchyard Curbside and Delivery. That basically was a brand new business, and that's kind of where I excel, was just kind of the startup and the planning and the logistics of getting a new brand off the ground. I worked with our graphic designer to get logos and graphics knocked out very quickly. Our point of sale allowed us to switch to e-commerce really easily. So we were able to enable delivery, use our own people for delivery drivers, which, saved jobs. And, we ended up, it was so crazy because, I was just filing for our PPP round 2 forgiveness. And, they ask, how many jobs did you have prior? And we had 31 jobs at the beginning of this year. So 2021, we had 31 jobs. 2 days ago when I filed the report, we're up to 43. So we've actually grown, because of the kitchen. And then we added we took advantage of there's an SBA, kind of like a microloan program that's been enhanced due to the Federal CARES Act. And so we took advantage of that to place an order, and we just took receipt of our canning line, which is being commissioned next week on Monday. We kind of pivoted the business pretty quick and started packaging and getting our beer into cans, which then allowed us to do wholesale and get into, big liquor stores and grocery stores. And quite literally, we've doubled production, what seems like overnight, because of the pandemic.
That's awesome. And I love that. I love both stories, because it seems like we've seen kind of a thread throughout, we've been running these webinars for almost a year now of trying to help folks get opportunity and also letting them hear positive stories like your guys's. But it seems like those who have seen opportunity in this have been able to really weather the storm a bit and really kind of come out on the other side even more prepared for the future for their businesses. So kudos to you both. It's super exciting to hear those stories. Adam, I'm going to go back, or I'm sorry, Curtis, I'm going to go back to you for a second, because we were right talking about this. So as you kind of develop those new brands in a time, earlier, Lorraine Ball was here to talk about kind of expanding that digital presence, especially for restaurant owners. Can you talk through like what things did you do to make sure, like spinning up a brand new offering in a place that people can't just walk into the doors and experience it? Like, how did you guys approach that? Did you shift your digital marketing or make an emphasis on that during that time? And can you walk us through kind of some of that stuff?
Yeah, sure. And, I think going back to your point, just about, the perspective that Adam and I both kind of had, I think it's important as leaders to, we're not perfect. We had some low times, we meaning me and my wife, and, we had some low times, but, your team's kind of looking at you for direction. They're looking, no one wants to wake up and be managed. They want to be led, right? So like, I hate the word managers, I don't manage our team. and this was a great opportunity for us to lead our team through something that, you know, let's be honest, the Gen Z and millennial generations, and yes, you know, I'm like a Gen X millennial hybrid, but I can tell you that this is something that they've never seen before in their lifetime. I mean, you know, for our generation, it was 9/11, you know, it was wars on terror, you know, but for the youngest generation, this is scary stuff, you know, you know, but one thing that I read recently, excuse me, the pollen is like terrible out here. I don't know why I decided to do this outside, but you know, it's one thing I read recently was that as a business owner, as a leader of an organization during this whole thing, you really have two options, right? Like you can sit behind the computer and you can just hit refresh on the EIDL or the, you know, or the Save Our Stages Act grant or the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. You can sit there and just hit refresh and just wait for assistance to come in, or you can get those things filled out the day it comes out. And then you can quickly get back to work doing what entrepreneurs do best. And that's, you know, just creating and leading and just kind of like mentoring. And I think that's what we did. You know, we really didn't change much of our digital marketing strategy at all. We are very active on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know, I think something that Adam and I both kind of collaborated on, and something that I think we do well in each other's organizations, is we were just supportive of the community. And by doing that, you know, that just got our name out there, whether it's advocating for small business with city, county councils, or if it's talking to state representatives about what's going on and what we need and, you know, what we're seeing boots on the ground. You know, even just reaching out to other local businesses. I mean, I can't tell you how many, you know, new numbers I have on my contact list where I would just walk down the street, just, you know, someone's shop and say, hey, what do you guys need? You know, I mean, do you just want to sit and talk? Sometimes that's all that another local business owner needed, was just someone to talk to. Because when you're in that position of leadership, I mean, it's, you know, there's only like a small circle of people that kind of really understand what you're going through and the stress that you're seeing. And really, it's just the talking through things. I think that's how we were able to kind of just keep on the forefront of customers' minds. You know, and we would do quirky things that we still wanted to be fun. And I mean, we invented one of our, and cool ideas can come from anyone within your organization. I mean, we invented this, you know, cool concept called Tipsygram. It was totally thought up by our kitchen manager and one of our special event interns from IU. And it's basically the old candygrams you used to get in middle school, except you get booze and flowers and a little handwritten note. And we did that for Valentine's Day this year, and it just, you know, exploded because it's fun, it's quirky, and, you know, we already had this cool delivery network already kind of built out, so we just kind of layered on top of that. Yeah, so I don't know. It's did I even answer the question?
Yeah, you did. I think excellent.
My brain just goes like this, man. I have no idea.
No, I think it was awesome. And I think it really ties to kind of something that Lorraine said earlier around, you know, like really having a voice and a presence out there that's not just like a shot of your food. Like that's good, but there's something about like having a personality and drawing people in, and also highlighting others in the community too. Like that's one of the things I think somebody who's up here in Indianapolis, I think we kind of admire about what you guys have building in Bloomington is it does feel like a community in which you guys all kind of look out for each other and work together, and it's kind of rising tide lifts all ships. And so that kind of voice and community that you can create through your digital presence makes a big difference with how people engage with you. Adam, same kind of question your direction. Getting the messaging out, especially with like pivoting towards hand sanitizer and things like that. I'm sure early on, it probably wasn't, people were clamoring for it. So you could probably put it on Facebook and have the hits, but did you guys do anything on the social side or on the digital media side that you felt like made a difference in, especially during a time where people couldn't come in to the shop or anything like that?
Yeah, we actually did. Erica had this good idea for in the early days, and we continued this for quite a while. Basically, she would post on Instagram, what our daily revenue requirement was to basically break even that day, and then when we hit that goal, she would say, "Okay, we're good. You guys go spend your money at someone else's place now." And I thought that was brilliant, and it was well received because, like Curtis was saying, everyone was trying to help each other out at that point. It was a pretty emotionally powerful moment, I think, for a lot of restaurant and small business owners, because the sort of network that we thought we had, that was sort of buried under the surface, was exposed um, due to the pandemic and due to the lockdowns. And we all, I think we all felt it probably more than ever before, how much we could rely on each other. I mean, that was the thing. We all kind of um, maybe never had to rely on each other in that way, and that kind of connection was just incredibly powerful. I think, yeah, for as far as marketing goes, um, we've always been like digital first, and so we didn't change much there. We recently, I would say, like past 6 months, we actually did start doing a little more paid digital, because the off-premise versus on-premise in distribution has been so lopsided these past 12 months that we've realized that to make up for lost sales through all the bars and restaurants around the country that we're carrying our stuff, we needed to get some more retail sales, so liquor store, grocery store, C-store in some states. But it's so we worked with a guy up in Indy who helped us basically put together some Facebook digital ad campaigns, and spent a little bit of money there to drive traffic to those stores, to purchase our products, which was kind of cool, and worked out pretty well. We've seen some good sales lift from that. One thing that I forgot to mention before, and I think is probably the most important thing that I've learned from all of this, is that this idea of like revenue stream diversification or pivoting or whatever you want to call it, is very very frowned upon when you're a startup. So you get a lot of people say focus, right? Just focus on your one thing, do it as best you can, put all your eggs in that basket. That's not how they phrase it, right? They say you have to focus, which I agree. That's in the very early days you have to do that. But you look at the most successful companies in history, and the S&P 500, all of those companies have tons of different revenue streams. They're not just this one thing. And so I think this is a lesson that like we learned directly in the past 18 months or whatever. But it's something that I'll always think about now, is how can we hedge our bets a little bit. So yeah, I think in terms of this panel and the restaurant side of things, what can you do as a restaurant owner to diversify your revenue streams? Obviously, there's carry out. We all basically had to do that this past year. There's different kinds of maybe food and beverage offerings. Maybe there's an opportunity to take something that you're doing and package it for retail, like Curtis has done, or put it, even if you're making, I don't know, like strombolis, can you freeze them and sell them on, some website? I think there's just you got to think through those options. And yeah, anyway, that's my end of that rant. But
I'll add something there, Adam. One thing that I think about my mother-in-law did it very, very well. She's the owner and founder of the Bloomington Chocolate Company here in town and the Olive Leaf. So they specialize in handmade, gourmet truffles, chocolates, candies, and really kind of exotic, fun, infused olive oils. And her shop also is very much retail. It's not a restaurant, not a tasting room. It's retail. She depended upon foot traffic, and yeah, she pivoted to online sales and that kind of thing too. But she also got really creative. And I think there's one thing the pandemic has done. It's taught us that we don't necessarily have to go somewhere. It made a lot of people in the United States who weren't very comfortable with using Zoom and, virtual meeting technologies. She started doing, virtual cooking classes, and that's just another revenue stream, and people really enjoyed them, and they still do. And, restaurants have a lot of cool resources. They have just look at your talent, look at your coworkers and think, okay, my head chef, he could do some really cool cooking classes, or, hey, do you want to make we'll use the stromboli for example. Let us teach you how to make the world famous stromboli at home. She packaged up little meal kits where it had each one of the raw ingredients for one of her, dishes, send them home with the consumer, and then they can follow along with her. Maybe someone on your staff is really great artist. Awesome. Hold a virtual training session, just anything that can diversify not only your revenue streams, but also just your brand, and just kind of highlight the cool people that work within your organization. I think is also really important.
That's awesome. And you guys kind of led me down a path I jotted down a minute ago. I was going to take us here, so I'm going to keep us here for a second. So with that diversification, it's obvious, I think the COVID really exposed those places where, we're either overly reliant on one revenue stream or something of the like. And I think it's taught us that you can find adjacent places that you can live in that can make your business less risky in the long run. I want to ask you guys from your perspective though, now that we're, knock on wood, coming out of this, how do you assure that, or how do you make sure that you don't spread yourselves too thin as an organization? Because there still needs to be that element of focus to make sure that you guys don't end up in a spot where you're the jack of all trades and the master of none. How do you guys, are you approaching that from a mindset for leading your team to be open to those pivots, to be willing to do those things, but also know when you should say no to something just because it's an opportunity? Either one of you can take it, wherever. I just am interested in your perspective.
Yeah, I'll go first. For us, it's, there's always going to be lots of opportunity. As Curtis was saying, anyone who's running a business or has started a business has that sort of mindset where you're always thinking of new ideas. I've got a notebook of them just like everyone else, I think. But so the opportunity part is, there's always going to be cool stuff to do, right? And you can't be like a squirrel looking for the shiny thing or whatever rodent you want to say there, maybe a raccoon. The big thing is risk, right? I think that's the biggest. When you're reading entrepreneurship books and podcasts and stuff, they're always talking about the next great thing, and there's a lot of sort of cult of personality there, but managing risk is really what an entrepreneur has to do. And so that's what we try to do quickly is evaluate ideas and quickly try to understand what the risk involved is. And one of the risks is always going to be, like you said, losing focus on other core parts of your business, or doing something that's so weird and off, out of the realm of what you're already doing that you'd have to create another brand for it. And branding is a long conversation, but I think brand is where you really do need some constraint. You have to have focus, and you have to make sure that everything gets in, everything can fit into the same concept there, because there's just so many brands that consumers can get easily confused, right? If you have a bunch of stuff that's trying to fit under one umbrella, and they all have different sort of archetypes or ideas around them. So that's one thing. I do think that, that phrase, the jack of all trades phrase, the last part of that always gets left off, which is, jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one, is what the original phrase was. And I mean, I've always been a generalist. I love thinking about a bunch of different things and how different things fit together. And so that's kind of how we go through life, is look at what we're doing now, see what opportunities there are on the edge, and either bring them in or don't. But usually we're not going for, we're not going to create an aerospace company under the Cardinal Spirits brand, right? But we may do, I don't know, maybe wine spritzers or something. We're not doing that, but you know what I mean? There's a level of risk and sort of out there ideas that we're willing to jump to.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I appreciate that, because I think where you kind of mentioned that a lot of the startup advice that folks will get is focus on that one thing, be really great at it. And to a certain extent that holds applicable. But I think the thing that both of you have kind of outlined today is that the pivots and the things that you've kind of brought into your organizations as a whole haven't really pushed you out of what anybody would consider core competency, if that makes sense. And I think having that lens of, I really like that. Like, we're not getting into aerospace here. Like hand sanitizer is alcohol. Like it's not that far-fetched of an idea to leave that realm or to enter that realm for you guys. And we saw other distillers kind of follow the same platform. So random question, Adam, do you have plans to continue the hand sanitizer portion of the business now that we've got all the knowledge that we have about COVID and things like that? Like, does that stick around, or is that going to kind of be shuttered or put on pause for the short term?
Yeah, that's been, we haven't made hand sanitizer since July or maybe August of last year. We still have some inventory, but yeah, we're not going to continue that. That was a temporary endeavor.
Got it. And Curtis, so kind of on your perspective, same kind of question. Like, how do you make sure that focus is enough that it stays kind of core competency for the business, but allows you to diversify those revenue streams in a way that still makes sense for the business as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I go back to our guiding principles. Our very first guiding principle is great beer. Beer's the lifeblood of our business. It is, in our brand's name. I think one really cool way to, like any other entrepreneur, I have a lot of really cool ideas that I want to do in my head, but not that much time, right? It's like, yeah, saying no is super important. It's something that I've definitely learned in the last 2 years, because everyone just has so much bandwidth, and you've got to take time to yourself and take time for your family. It's very easy for me to just, like, when I go to the tap room, if I go on there on a Friday night, just to check things out and see how everyone's doing. And it's very, very easy for me just to get sucked back into the kitchen and immediately start washing dishes just because I want to help in some way. Typically they're always just like, you're in the way. Like we've got this. So I'll just go refill water glasses or something out in the tap room. But it's, for me, I look at, I apologize for the hound dog. That's, I think she may have saw a deer or a bunny or something, but that, or it's her favorite person, the UPS person, because they bring treats. Yep, it's the UPS person.
Love it.
But you look at those guiding principles, and something that I love is just the idea of like, all right, if we have something that we could do different, like something that we could throw Switchart on, like, the idea of opening a coffee roastery. I don't know, like, yeah, I love coffee. I have a huge passion for it. Do I have time to open up a coffee roastery? No. So I have to say no to that. But if a coworker came to me that has a huge passion and they want to be a managing partner of that business and they want to spearhead it and they want to do a business plan and they want to pitch it to our leadership team and say, hey, what do you think? Like, I would totally go along with that because, you're sharing the love with someone else, someone that's passionate about a topic. I mean, it doesn't have to be coffee. It could be brunch. Someone just is huge about brunch, or maybe, it's bread. Maybe someone's a great bread maker, I just love the idea of like co-owned businesses or like a community of businesses. And that's what I would probably that's probably what I would be more, come here, Ellie. That's probably what I'd be more apt to do, would be share the love with someone else.
I love that. I love that. Guys, we're getting close to the end. One question I wanted to ask, and then I've got two more questions that are going to tie together here. But so now that we're getting to this point in our businesses where, up to now, there has been kind of some clear guidance on like, how many folks you can have in a facility, or we're all wearing masks or whatever that may be. And now we're headed kind of into a time where we're not going to quite have that level of guidance to kind of fall back on. How are you guys moving forward? What are your plans? Is it just kind of on a day-to-day basis? Is it a situation by situation? Can you walk us through just, and more, to give other owners that might see this, like the confidence or the thought process that you're walking through now that there isn't quite that clear line to follow at this point? Curtis, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I would love to. I love this question. And it's something that, I've just been doing, from my background in medicine. I mean, I've just been following this so closely, and something that we've done from the very, very beginning of this pandemic is just follow the data, follow the science, follow the data. The data, does not lie. It tells, it's very black and white. Read the CDC studies. Some people don't really enjoy reading stat papers. I happen to enjoy it. I just really like being informed. And so I can provide information to others. But here's the thing, my wife is a mental health therapist, and, she says it best. It took, if we remember the anxiety, if we remember the unknowns, our new brain does not like the idea of unknown, right? You got your primal brain, you've got your new brain. Your new brain, your Homo sapien brain does not like the idea of unknowns, because we can't project into the future. We can't put ourselves into the future. When we do that, that causes an anxiety loop. And in order to break that loop, you have to tell yourself, I'm here in the present moment, and this is what I can do right now to control my life where I'm at now. It is, so early in the pandemic, there was just so many unknowns, and that was causing a lot of trouble for people. We were told, to start masking, and we did, and it works, right? We were told to go get vaccinated, and we did. And actually the vaccinations are working so much better than anyone ever thought that they would. I'm talking 97% effectiveness, right? I mean, these things are gold standard right now. And it's going to take time to unwind this thing, because it only takes 30 days to create a habit, right? We've been doing the same thing now for 16 months, and everyone's going to have their own risk tolerance level. Everyone is, because everyone comes from different life backgrounds. Everyone handles stress and anxiety differently. The way that I handle stress and anxiety is by researching and reading and gathering information. That is not the same for everyone. And my wife jokes about it. Every single time we go to buy a new appliance or a new vehicle, I am the one that's like staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning, researching and reading about it. And she's like, Curtis, just go to bed. Like, nothing you read is going to change our decision. We're going to make a decision. But so when I had the talk with our team, Monroe County is one of the last counties to kind of reopen. And that's, I applaud our county health department for, for following the data and being very conservative with that. And they've done a great job at staying in constant communication with bars and restaurants in Monroe County. For us, as a business, our staff, we did not require vaccinations, but 100% of our staff are fully vaccinated. My staff is protected. They're taken care of. And I held a meeting with our staff, with our senior leadership, and then, encouraging them to coach and talk to each one of our staff individually. And for us, it was just the person, keeping in touch with every single person, which is even what I did during the pandemic. I would reach out and say, hey, do you need anything? Just send a text to each one of our staff members, and doing the same thing to unwind out of this. We in our tap room no longer require masks. We are back to pre-COVID operations, I guess I would say. Our capacity is legally 233. We won't, we don't have enough chairs to even get to that. So, we're unwinding out of it, but we're doing so with still following the science and still following the data. I'm still looking at benchmark data every single day, ensuring, that our staff feels comfortable, and it's just going to take time to unwind out of this. We've been doing the same thing for 16 months. So my word of advice for other businesses, what we do may not be right for your business. You need to do what you feel is best for your business, but I also think more importantly, your community as well.
So good. Adam, any thoughts on your end on that? Oh, muted.
No, I was just going to say, that was all good. I think I just agree that it's up to each business. Even when there was government mandates and recommendations, you always have to do what's best for you and what's best for your business and your employees. So, sometimes those were more conservative. Maybe in the early days, they weren't as, they didn't want us to wear masks for a while there. Right. So you do always have to, like Curtis said, read the data yourself, try to find the first, not the article about the report, but the report itself, and read the thing. And I think that's true for like almost everything these days. Don't try not to try to get the unfiltered version of the truth as quickly as you can. For us, we're working on a reopening plan. We don't have a date set yet. We're doing we have some new employees that we've been training this week, front of house, and we're going to be reopening for dine-in, hopefully within the next couple weeks.
Something else that I'll add on to it would be, and I just encourage everyone, touch base with your employees, touch base with your staff. And I would say more so than ever, I think there really can't be a blanket communication. Each staff member, what I would really highly recommend is instruct your staff that, the decisions that they're making to take the vaccine, to not take the vaccine, to mask, to not mask, that really needs to be done between the employee and their healthcare provider. So the employee and their primary care physicians, someone that they trust, that understands their medical condition. I mean, because, for example, my mom, she's a part-time prep cook inside of our pizza kitchen. She loves it. If you wonder why the red sauce is so good, it's because mom made it. And, for her, she's battling cancer, and you would think that, she would be a great candidate for the vaccine, and that it would, benefit her greatly. But the conversation that she's had with her primary care doctor and her oncologist was, your immune system is still pretty fragile. We're giving you other medications that may conflict. You may, I would not recommend you do that right now. So I think it's very important for the employees to talk specifically to their medical professional about, what they can or could not do.
Yeah, that's really, I think, and I love that messaging of like, there's no one size fits all for everybody. And I think the big thing is leadership, being in communication with your team on a one-to-one basis, so that way those concerns or those feelings can be kind of sussed out, rather than a group conversation where somebody might not feel comfortable speaking up or whatever that may be. So, guys, we're coming up to the end. I've got one last question, just kind of to kind of take us home. But if you could boil down the last 16 months of learnings into, one or two things that you're really kind of walking out of this challenging time with, what would it be, and what would that be? Would it be applicable to others that are watching this? Could you give us just kind of your takeaways after hopefully coming out on the other side of this exciting time?
Really the main one for me is you better like what you're doing, and you better find a deep meaning and purpose from what you're doing, because you're in it. You've got a limited amount of time here, right? A lot of people have died in the past year and a half, and there's a number of reasons, but I think finding your passion, or whatever you want to call that, purposeful work is something that everyone should pursue. And that's really the main takeaway from my perspective.
It's awesome. Curtis, over to you.
Yeah, there's so many. I'm trying to think of what like really resonates the most with me, and what I could help impart to other entrepreneurs and other leaders. Active listening. I think listening to your people, kind of as a leader of an organization, you kind of have three options when you're making decisions. It's either going to be a consensus type decision making. It could be a consultative, where you're asking for feedback or a consult, and you're ultimately going to make the decision. Or it's going to be like a control type decision, where it's just you have to do that pretty quickly. Save that one more for like emergent type situations. For me, I was so used to that control-based decision making from my previous life, working, in pre-hospital emergency medicine. So I would make, pretty critical decisions, and, very quickly. Just, what meds to push, what route do I take if I'm driving the ambulance? And that doesn't translate super well to business, because you're working with people's lives in both areas. And I think that's really key, just for people to know, as like a leader, you're working with people's lives. It's your responsibility to not just lead them, but to mentor them, encourage them, hope that they become better than what you ever could imagine. And at the end of the day, they're going to help your organization grow, but you're also helping them grow. So listening to your people, I think, is one of my big takeaways, and something that I learned coming out of this, that I can't just make control decisions all the time. The other two decision-making techniques are also really important. And if there's a great article from Ari from Zingerman's up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, that kind of talks about that. Happy to send it to anyone that would like to read the article. It's fantastic. Shoot me an email, curtis@switchyardbrewing.com.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be part of this today. Super impactful conversation. Really enjoyed it all. Anybody that wants to connect with Adam or Curtis, feel free to shoot me an email. It's probably the easiest way, since I'm on the webinar, and I'll be happy to connect you. And again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time today. Again, it's Switchyard Brewing Company and Cardinal Spirits. make sure that if you see them in your grocery store or get a chance to go have some pizza, make that happen. And that does it for the webinar today. Guys, we will cut you guys loose, and next webinar for ISBDC will come in June. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Then we'll send out an email with that information coming. And everybody have a great rest of your Friday.
Thanks.